One big franchise tag applied again before today's 4 p.m. Eastern Time deadline. For a second straight year, the Bengals have tagged T. Higgins, saying they still intend to work out a long-term deal with their receiver. Higgins had a career-high 10 touchdowns last year. If they cannot come to terms by July 15th, being tagged by the Bengals, not a bad way to make $26.2 million next year for Higgins. The Eagles releasing six-time Pro Bowl cornerback Darius Slay. Randy just snapped. The Eagles looking to cut salaries of players such as Mekhi Becton and Zach Bond set to hit free agency next week. Philly will now lean even more heavily on their vaunted rookies in Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, drafted last April, to preserve that #1 rated defense.
And Jordan Reed, our ESPN NFL draft analyst, has dropped his latest mock draft. This is just moments ago, a major change at the top. How about a trade for the first overall pick? New York trading with Tennessee. The Giants moving up to take quarterback Cam Ward out of Miami. Ward, who rewrote the Hurricanes record book in his only season down there at Coral Gables. Jordan now sees QBs going 1 and 2 because here comes Shedeur Sanders to Cleveland at second overall. The Browns had more QBs start games, that was 4 of them last year, than wins in 2024. That's 3 of them. After moving down from 1 to 3, Jordan has Tennessee taking Penn State edge rusher Abdul Carter in hopes of pairing him with interior rusher Jeffrey Simmons and continue this rebuild, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And then with a 4th pick, how about Jordan has the Patriots taking Heisman Trophy winner Travis Hunter out of Colorado. That would put him with new head coach Mike Vrabel and second-year QB Drake May. And the runner-up for the Heisman last season, Boise State, running back Ashton Jeanty, 6th to the Raiders. Why do the Raiders need a running back? What don't they need? The Raiders were last in the NFL in rushing by 12 yards per game, and we laugh as Raiders fans to keep from crying. Fresh off of a trip to the Combine, the aforementioned, much heralded Jordan Reed is with us here on SportsCenter. So you reshuffle things at the top of your board. There's so many jumping off points. Why do you have the Giants? Let's start there. Start at the top. Why do you have them trading up and taking Cam Ward?
Well, Randy, it's simple. They need a quarterback, and I believe they should pay the price to move up for a quarterback just because they've been heavy into the Matt Stafford rumors, as reported by our own Jeremy Fowler, but he ended up going back to the Los Angeles Rams. This team needs a quarterback desperately, so I believe they should move up for a quarterback. Now, this comes down to what the Tennessee Titans want to do with the #1 overall pick, but if new general manager Mike Bergonzi is not comfortable attaching himself to one of these quarterbacks at the top of the draft, I believe the Giants should give them a call and trade up to #1 overall to select quarterback Cam Ward, who I believe has every quality to eventually be a franchise type of quarterback on the next level.
Again, this mock draft is just moments old. There are significant zags in this, though, because most mocks that we've seen have Shedeur Sanders falling. You have him rising to 2nd overall to Cleveland. Why should the Browns take Shedeur Sanders there?
Well, they're another team that is in desperate need of a quarterback. Obviously, the Deshaun Watson trade did not end up working out for Cleveland. So now they're in a situation of where they're in desperation mode for a quarterback just because the Cleveland Browns have to win next year or this regime is completely going to be gone with Kevin Stefanski and then also Andrew Berry. So I look at a quarterback like Shedeur Sanders that I think is a great fit in Kevin Stefanski's offense. He plays on time. He is excellent as far as his accuracy. Now, he does need to clean up some things as far as retreating backwards outside of the pocket and then also just taking so many sacks. But as far as the fit in Kevin Stefanski's offense and the need that they have at quarterback, I think they're a perfect fit for each other.
I mean, listen, this time of year, it's like that movie with Sandra Bullock. Hope floats, and that's what quarterbacks bring is hope to a franchise. The entire 2-round mock draft now available from Jordan Reed on ESPN+. Jordan, thank you. All right.
How about keeping stars together? Got a franchise tag pre-applied before today's 4 p.m. Eastern Time deadline. For a second straight year, the Bengals have tagged T. Higgins, saying they still intend to work out a long-term deal with the receiver who helped turn the franchise after being drafted in 2020. If they cannot come to terms by July 15th, Higgins is going to earn $26.2 million this upcoming season. NFL insider Dan Graziano and our quarterback Tim Hasselbeck joining the program now. Fellas, good to see you. Graz, if a long-term deal does not get done, would the Bengals entertain trading T. Higgins on the tag?
Oh, yeah, Gary, I believe they would, but that's not where their mind is right now. They continue to want to try and work out a long-term deal with T. Higgins, with Jamar Chase, with their star defensive end, Trey Hendrickson. So they're at work on that. They still have, as you mentioned, until July 15th to get a long-term deal done with T. Higgins, and it is their hope that they can do that. Get into July and nothing's happened, they don't feel like they're close, absolutely. You could be talking about a situation where they try and trade him to get something for him. But again, as of right now, that is not the Bengals' intention.
Yeah, and I would look at that, Dan, and say, like, they're just taking their time unnecessarily. Like a couple, I guess a year ago, you knew T. Higgins could play. Go ahead and extend him at that point. The longer you wait, the more expensive he becomes. You mentioned the other guys that they have to sign. Same thing with them. They get more expensive. They basically have acknowledged that Ja'Marr Chase is going to have to be the highest paid, non-quarterback in the National Football League, which I would generally agree with. And so when you do that, when you wait, when you know guys can play, it just ends up costing you more money. When you think about how the Bengals typically do deals, not guaranteeing them a ton of money, in the first 2 years of a contract, look, it's going to be hard to keep all of these guys, and ultimately, you're going to let good players walk out the door.
T. Higgins, 10 touchdowns last season. He's a wide receiver 1 on 25 teams in the NFL. All right, meanwhile, to quarterbacks, Tim, are the Vikings making a mistake not tagging Sam Darnold?
Yeah, I believe they are. And the reason I say that is this. Look, Sam Darnold is younger than Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. He came into the league in a really tough situation, but he's a young player that threw 35 touchdowns a year ago. It's hard to do that. And as much as you may like a young prospect who you've drafted in the first round, the bust rate at quarterback is through the roof. And when you know somebody can play who's young and at the position, I think it's smart to try to keep him and build around him. And look, I understand the advantages of rookie contracts and all of that, at the quarterback position. But to me, to see him leave and go somewhere else, I think you can get worse than better a lot faster when you look at what Sam Darnold did for the organization a year ago.
Yeah, the only problem is, a year ago they draft J.J. McCarthy, and the plan is to go to him eventually once he is ready. He gets hurt in camp, and Darnold has this great year. So you look at the salary cap issues. They can pay Justin Jefferson $36 million a year because they're anticipating having a quarterback on his rookie contract in J.J. McCarthy. If you franchise Sam Darnold for $40 million, or even if you sign him long-term for $40 million plus, that makes you have to change your plan. You might not be able to keep all the players you want to keep. You might be in a situation like the one we were just describing with the Cincinnati Bengals, where you have to pick and choose which of your stars get to stay and which don't. So I think there's a number at which the Vikings would be happy to bring Sam Darnold back, but I do not believe that number is $40 million, which is what the franchise tag would be, and it's likely that he finds that number, a higher number elsewhere than the Vikings are willing to pay him.
Sam Darnold, still just 27 years younger than Joe Burrow. Franchise tag deadline, 4 p.m. Eastern time today. That's the big number everybody will be paying attention to later this afternoon. Fellas.
Lần lượt này là được. Rồi, còn vài mũi nữa là sẽ xong. Mình tiếp tục mình móc nhé. Rồi, móc nữa này.